Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sneha and today I'm doing a video on my Kiko water eyeshadows. So these are eyeshadows by the brand Kiko Cosmetics and these can be used both wet and dry. The packaging looks like this. It's just a small rectangular container and on the back you have the shade number and also you have instructions on how you can use it, so using it wet or dry. So these eyeshadows retail for 8.9 pounds in the UK, so about 9 pounds, and they contain 3 grams of product, which is a ton. So just for comparison, a typical eyeshadow contains 1.5 grams usually to 2 grams, but these contain 3 grams, and this is what the inside of the packaging looks like. So the eyeshadow comes here in this nice designs. So on their website, I think they say that these swirls are great for your fingers to get in and get a good amount of eyeshadow on it. So I have 5 shades in this formula. The first one I have is 208, which is most likely their most popular shade from this line because of its similarity to a lot of high-end highlighters, face highlighters. So this is what that looks like, 208. I would describe the shade as a light golden or champagne color, and when I do a finger swatch it goes on really creamy and very pigmented, and it definitely looks more metallic as you can see when it's used wet. As far as the formula is concerned, I think this is like a soft metallic shimmery shade with no glitter running through it, or a very fine glitter that's almost undetectable. The next shade I have is 233, which is probably my personal favorite, which looks like this amazing 24 karat true gold color. But this shade does have a ton of gold glitter running through it. It goes on beautifully with good pigmentation, but definitely is more metallic when it's applied wet. Again, I would describe this as a metallic shimmery shade. Next is number 206, which looks like this. This shade, I would say off the lot, is the most chunky, if that makes sense. I would describe the shade as a brown bronze color with silver glitter running through it. Also, when you apply the shade wet, it definitely goes on much darker. Also, this particular shade had a lot of fallout when I used it on the eyes. So it's mostly the chunky glitter coming off on your face. So with this shade, I would definitely recommend using it wet, not dry. The next shade is 204, which looks like this beautiful pink burgundy color. I would describe this as a soft metallic or shimmery shade with no glitter running through it, and it has a beautiful sheen to it. And it swatches quite well, but I prefer the shade applied wet with water, and it definitely looks darker when it's applied wet. And the last shade I have is 223, which looks like this beautiful eggplant brinjal kind of color. I would describe this again as a soft metallic or shimmery shade with no glitter running through it, and it has a really nice sheen to it. And again, this shade, like the previous shade, goes on dark when applied wet, but it still swatches really nicely when you swatch it dry. One thing to note is that not all the shades are equal in terms of texture, so be careful when you pick a shade online. I would definitely look at online swatches to get a better idea of the finish and the texture of these eyeshadows. So onto the tutorial portion. Now I'm not going to use any other eyeshadows with these just because I want to show you how all of these shades look. Some of them I'm going to use dry, some wet, and I'm going to show you how they look on the eyes. So it's going to be 2 different looks, one on each eye. And because there is no matte shade, my plan is to use this shade as transition shade, just applied dry. First, I think I'm going to create a halo eye with the purple and the burgundy and the gold tones from these eyeshadows. I've already gone ahead and primed my eyelids with my NARS eye primer. So using the burgundy shade dry first, I'm going to apply this to the outer and the inner corner of my eye. Again, this is when the eyeshadow is dry. You can see that the pigmentation is good with these eyeshadows. So that's the eyeshadow 208. I'm using a flat small brush to wet it with water and then going onto the eyeshadow directly. Got a decent amount of eyeshadow on there. Just going to deepen up the inner and the outer corner, and you can see the pigmentation straight up when it's used wet. The best part is that even though you've applied it wet right now, it's going to blend out quite easily with the existing eyeshadow, which is dry. So like that first pink burgundy shade we used, going back in with that first blending brush. Just blending the purple with the burgundy color. Like so. I'm going to apply the same purple shade on the bottom lash line as well, mimicking that halo eye. So applying it to the outer half, and then also on the inner corner. And now I'm just going to connect the two purple sides right there. It's going to look a bit ridiculous right now, but it'll look okay once we blend it out. Then I'm going to use a dry brush and going in with that burgundy shade we used first, and just applying that on the edges and blending it here. And then to finish off this look, I think I'm going to use this stunning gold shade wet right in the spotlight area. So looks like molten gold. Just packed it on both sides of the brush, starting with the lower lash line. Just going to apply this right in the middle under my eyeball. Do you guys see that? And some more intensity there. Going in with that brush we used the purple eyeshadow with, just blending the edges with the gold on the top lash line. Just to mimic on the waterline the same effect, I'm going in with the purple eyeliner and applying it on the outer and the inner corner. And in the middle where I've left it vacant, I'm going in with this gold eyeliner from Sigma. Just applying it right there. Just going to finish this look with some mascara and I'll be right back. So I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I do have some fallout, a few flecks of the darker eyeshadow. But other than that, this is look number one. Now on this eye, my plan is to use the other two shades. Using this first shade, again dry, applying it to the crease area. This will act as a transition shade. And I'm just applying it very lightly. I don't want it to be too pink. So I do want that chocolatey brown shade and the light champagne shade to be the actual highlight of the look. So you can see that although the color is so intense, if you use a light hand, you can get a really soft, diffuse look with the same eyeshadow. Now, because the shade has a ton of glitter running through it, I don't want to use it dry because I'll get a ton of silver flecks on my cheek and I don't want that. So I'm using the shade dry, I'm going to use the shade wet and probably apply it to the outer V of my eye, a ton on my brush. So what I'm going to do is follow the natural curve of the eye. So start at the bottom lash line like so. and then pull this up like so. So brought it about halfway into the eye, and then I'm going to pack the shade close to the lashes, bringing it in from that point. To bring it halfway onto the eye. It should look something like this. Then I'm using that same brush that we used on the other eye and start diffusing out the edges, bringing this brown towards the inner corner. Next, going in with this beautiful light gold champagne shade. This is 208. And then just applying it to the lid area where it's empty right now. Do you see that intense finish? I'm just going to almost like carve out my eyelid with the shade. And also taking it in the inner tear duct area. Right here for this metallic finish, and then going back in with that blending brush, just blending it with the brown, leaving the intensity in the inner corner and blending between these. So as you can see, they blend quite easily. And then I'm going to run a brown eye pencil on my waterline. And then finishing up with the same mascara. And this is it. So these are two looks that I've created using the Kiko water eyeshadows. So you could really see the intensity of these eyeshadows when applied wet, and that's my preferred method of applying these eyeshadows. When they're applied dry, they are just like any other eyeshadow, so you don't get the effect, the true effect of these eyeshadows, but I think they're good for a daytime wear. You don't want so much intensity during the daytime, so you could use them dry. But I wanted to show you guys the true full potential with these eyeshadows, and hopefully you saw that they went on super pigmented when they were applied wet. I almost forgot, but I also want to show you guys how I use these two eyeshadows as a face highlighter. So I'm first starting with this one, so I'm going to do it on this side, and I use them dry. But of course, if you want a high intensity finish like the eyeshadow, you can go in with a wet brush. So I'm using my Zoeva 134 brush. Picking some on this. Oops, oh yeah, I applied on the right side. Hopefully you can see that. And you can of course build up on the intensity. So that's the shade I would personally use for my skin tone. But if you have a deeper skin tone or you want to try the Fenty Beauty, I think it was, I forget the name, sorry, but it looked something like this, but I didn't buy it because it did have those glitter chunks, and again, this particular eyeshadow has the same. So I can get away with using this color when I do a light dusting like this. I'm going to build it up so you can see it a little more. And again, I'm using these dry, not wet. You see that gold finish compared to the champagne one. So this will look amazing if you have deeper skin tone than mine. So just to wrap it up, I think, if you're looking for any of these eyeshadows, be careful to look at the swatches online just to make sure that the shade does not have too many glittery chunks like this brown one does. You can see the silver glitter running through it. So just be careful in case you want a really dark brown without shimmer, like a sheen metallic finish, but you end up with something like this which has glitter running through it. But otherwise, I have nothing bad to say about these eyeshadows. They're really nice quality, and as you can see, when applied wet, they go on with full-on intensity. So I hope this video was useful to those of you who had asked how I use these eyeshadows. And if you found this helpful, please don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me.